When it comes to selecting your character, a wise man once said,
just pick them, pick a top tier.
All jokes aside, there's a new update for Strive coming up this weekend, and you're probably wondering, who do I play? Who should I select? Well, guess what? We got a treat for you. Here's something easy that you don't have to stress about, smashing that sub button. Go ahead and do that so you don't miss any of the great Panda fighting game content we got coming. We hit up some pro players at East Coast Throwdown to get their thoughts on who's the easiest and hardest to learn in Guilty Gear Strive. Take a look.
I think the hardest character to learn in Guilty Gear is GEICO. A lot of what makes her hard to use is that she's inherently like a very technical character compared to a lot of the rest of the cast where their gameplay revolves around either hitting a button or throwing. She's very similar, but the way that she gets you there with like summoning her minions and a lot of her combo routes are a lot more technical than the rest of the cast.
It's probably, you know, I think she's really, really good. As we can see, Daru's a really good player, the Korean Ina player. And he's doing really well with her and doing that nobody else is doing because she's so hard.
The really hard characters are like Nagoriyuki and like Zato. They're like really unconventional. I understand y'all want to know, like, you know, what's the hardest character or the easiest character? How do you get into the game? I think the most important thing you're going to want to know is don't worry so much about how hard a character is to play. If a character appeals to you in some way, like, I don't know, you like big burly soul bad guy or Amelia and her hair, like that's what's most important.
Maybe it's Zato. I think Zato probably the hardest because like he's actually a very technical character also because you have to hold down buttons and negative edge, and you know I'm not really with those things. You know, I know a lot of people is. I think he's a very good character, but very hard to use because he's a very high execution character. You know, I definitely would not recommend him for any beginner player because he is actually really hard.
I'd say is either GEICO or Zato, but I want to say Zato because people aren't used to negative edge characters like that. Especially if you're new to fighting games, you're not going to understand what's going on. So I definitely give it to Zato. You just have to learn how Zato works and also how Any works. So that's two characters.
Probably GEICO, honestly. I think people would say Zato, but I think GEICO, with how the minions work and everything, I think she's like very unintuitive. She's very, very hard. She has to like understand spaces of minions and also herself as well. That like even Zato doesn't really have to think about. So like, I would think GEICO definitely.
Probably GEICO and then Zato. GEICO, you have to really be aware of the minions. You have 3 minions and you have to make sure the minion meter is like good in order to access all the different moves that you have with the minions. So it's really difficult, and then all the commands is in motion, so it's a lot of like turning to do all the commands consecutively, so it's pretty hard. And then for Zato, it's also a puppet character, so you also have to manage your Zato meter, and then so just be on top of everything. And then Zato has pretty weak defense, so that's also pretty hard for him.
The easiest character for Strive, I think, is probably Leo. This could be biased because I hate the character so much. But I think Leo is pretty easy to use, you know, right up there with Soul, but I'm gonna give it to Leo because I play Soul, so you know, he's a little bit harder. But yeah, Leo, I think it's just easy because his combos are very simple and like they're pretty much his optimal combos. That's really simple, and it's just like his whole game plan is kind of to maul you and mix you up, and his mix-ups are very easy to get off and to even pull off. They're just very easy, so I think Leo would take the cake.
I think Leo is a very beginner-friendly character, and May, even though she's a charge character. So May, I think a big thing with her is a lot of her buttons are very like big, and some of them still have like disjoints, and her combos are usually like 2 to 3 hits sometimes at most, unless it's like very specific. And even though she's a charge character, charge time is very small in Guilty Gear, so it's really easy to get like your dolphin out and stuff like that and like do pressure. So even when I was first picking up Guilty Gear Strive, Mei was one of the characters I learned like really fast. So I think anyone trying to get into Guilty Gear, Mei is a very good starting point, and she only gets stronger the more you learn. And then with Leo, very similar thing. Like I feel like there's not too much you have to learn. He's very straightforward, like very high damage. All of his buttons are very strong. But where he exceeds, I think, differently from Mei is like his mix-up game is very, very strong. It's probably the best in the game. So if someone leans toward like more rushdown style, Leo would be a very good beginner character.
Soul, Ram, or Kai, probably. They do things that you can do in pretty much any fighting game. And Ram just has big ass things you can do and easy things you can do in the corner for pressure.
A lot of people might say Soul, but I think it's Kai. Because at least when you're playing, at least if you've seen fighting games before, you should kind of understand everything Kai has. The charged fireball is basically how you set up Oki after a knockdown. He has everything you could ask for from a character. He does, his routes aren't too difficult either. So if you really just want to start out with Strive, Arcsys also put Kai as like a 5-star character. So I would say as far as like difficulty, Kai is definitely like up there for easiest character.
Honestly, I think most of the characters are pretty easy aside from like the very fast characters. So if you decide to choose a character maybe based on easiest, I would pick maybe like Kai, Soul, or something like that for a beginner. Intuitive things and specifically made for new players as well. So like I think if you pick up and play those characters, I think you'll do well in a short time.
But if you want a really easy way to get into the game, like try Kai Kisuke or Soul Bad Guy, Giovanna.
Probably Soul, Mei, Kai. All of them are pretty straightforward. They have pretty straightforward game plan. Like most of them do the strike and throw mix-ups, and then they all are pretty oppressive. So once you're on the offensive side, you can get things going. And then a lot of beginners don't really know how to deal with those pressures. So they probably get a lot of wins at the beginning. Yeah.
So, what'd you think of the video? You prefer to just drool over the stick and get your wins that way? Or do you like to put a little bit of brain power in your button presses? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll catch you next time.